This, my friends, is the PCT.
I feel on top of the world.
Oh no, it's happening again. Trouble sets in, waiting for the dividend.
Hello, I'm River, and today I wanted to talk to you about what I wore on the PCT. I feel like there's heaps of gear reviews that always talk about, your big three and all the items that every thru hiker has to have, but I always found it really hard to find information on what to wear hiking. I think since actually doing the thru hike and seeing what everyone else out there was wearing, it's a bit of a free-for-all. There's no specific item that you should be wearing. Everyone's got a different take on it, and yeah, so I thought I'd just share some of my opinions on the things that I wore, which I absolutely loved and would do again. I guess the first thing is my shirt. I pulled this out of the archives, so it's a bit wrinkled, but it's probably not quite in the condition to wear again, but I love this shirt so much. It's the brand Cool. But yeah, I've seen it both here in Australia and over in the US, and I loved this shirt. I think some of the main features you want in a shirt that you're going to hike in is something with the collar. I honestly found 50% of hikers didn't have it, but most of the time, especially in the desert or any time that I was getting like the morning or afternoon sun when it was really low down and just kind of smashing me, I always had my collar popped just to try and protect my neck a little bit. And also long sleeves as well. For the most part, I did really wear it up like this, but again, when I felt like it was really, really burny time, I would just roll the sleeves down, and I felt that was a really, really good feature. I came home with a surprising amount of sun damage to my skin. I just kind of look older now. So I probably would try and make an effort to protect my skin a little bit in the future. I didn't wear a whole lot of sun cream out there, maybe for the first month. And then after that, I kind of just stopped burning. I got really nice and brown, which again, it's summer here, so I'm fairly brown again now. But yeah, in the future, I'd definitely be trying to protect my skin a little bit better from the sun. A lot of people take like a short sleeve shirt. I'd be tempted to do that and maybe to make it a town shirt, but no, I didn't do that on my last hike. And to be honest, I'm getting pretty dialed in about weight these days, so I don't know that I would carry a town shirt in the future either, but it's an option, and it's very common for people to do that. And a lot of people wear party shirts. They take like a Hawaiian shirt or something similar, and either they go all out and wear it on the trail as well. They're all like the cool kids. But otherwise they wear them in town, and that's kind of their clothes to wear while they do their laundry. I generally just wore my rain gear or kind of rotated. Like I might just wear my thermals. I would only ever really sleep in my thermals, so they were generally pretty clean. So I'd wear them when this was getting washed. The shorts that I wore, everyone's very different. I'll stand up and show you. They're pretty short. They did get me a fair bit of attention, especially around hitchhiking. That was always easy with these shorts. Funny story, I had a different pair of shorts that I was going to wear, and I accidentally shipped them to my auntie in Canada with like all of my day clothes, like my jeans and stuff that I wanted to wear at the end when I got there. And I realized the day before I started hiking that like, shit, my shorts are gone. So I went to a surf shop down in a little place called Ocean Beach, and these were all they had. So I grabbed them. I was a little bit nervous with how short they were. I was really concerned about chafing, but it didn't really turn out to be an issue. It was not nearly as humid over in America as what it is here in Australia, and humidity is when you really start to chafe, or at least when I really start to chafe. So I wore these shorts the whole way through the trail, and it wasn't until Washington, where it does get humid, that I actually chafed. And like I definitely wasn't putting on weight or anything like that. It's towards the end of the hike. But yeah, and I kind of just managed that. I ended up tying a bandana around my leg where I was chafing around one of my legs. It's great if you have a leg small, like a thigh small enough to do that, but maybe if you're a guy with massive quads, maybe that's not possible, but it was certainly a solution for me. and it was fine. It was the only time I ever really had issues with chafing. What I'm going to show you now is the final set of clothing that I took. I brought a whole lot of extra stuff and swapped a lot of my gear out as I went through, but I start with my thermals. These are my thermal pants. I'm not going to try everything on, but they're the merino. Firstly, I would really highly recommend merino. Pretty much everyone does. Just a plain set of thermals, and these were the 200 grade, I don't know, whatever it is, and they were great. In the Sierras, I did have waterproof pants, and through some other sections I did also have just regular quick dry zip off pants. I really hated any other pants. My final dialed in kit was actually tights, so when it was like a wet day when I was hiking, I'd wear tights, and if it was cold then I would wear both the thermals over the tights, and that worked really well for me. And then I'd just sleep in the thermals at night if it was cold. If not, I was a pretty big grub and also often just slept in my clothes as well. I had a sleeping bag liner and I would often wash that as well. And then the top that I wore, it was just like an Aldi thermal. It's got so many like moth holes, and yeah, it's falling apart now. But it did fine, and honestly any old thermal will probably do. You don't want to get the super light ones, the 100 grade, whatever it is. Might be a little bit too light, particularly in the snow. And if you're caught out in Washington quite late, that's probably going to be a bit of an issue as well. But for the most part, regular thermals, it really is about layering properly. So I also brought a down jacket. I guess the 2 pieces of gear or 3 pieces of gear you always hear hikers talk about is the Ghost Whisper Light down jacket, which I didn't have, Ultras for shoes, which again I didn't have, and Darn Tough socks, which we'll talk about that in a moment. I did try them. But yeah, and then my down jacket, I probably could have gone with a slightly warmer, thicker one. But I don't know, I just grabbed whatever. I didn't really do a whole lot of research into puffy jackets before I bought one, which I probably should have. Might have been a little bit of a short sight, but I survived, so it's fine. I still wear this jacket now. It's pretty good. It lasted the whole trip. In general, I am personally a fleece wearer. The reason I got down was purely because that's what everyone else did. And I kind of just followed and took everyone's advice for pack lists and things. I slept in this most nights. Now that I think about it, I am a cold sleeper and I just kind of loved feeling snug. I would probably consider maybe getting a Whisper Light Ghost, whatever it's called, Mountain Hardware, Mountain Gear, I don't know what it is, the brand even is. Yeah, I'd probably consider one of them in the future. It's definitely the warmest for weight. But this was a Macpac jacket that I grabbed. It's an Australian brand, Macpac, and I'm really happy with it. It did well. And yeah. And then as far as rain gear goes, I was lucky enough to be sponsored by Salomon while I hiked. So I actually was given this rain jacket. So I started with the big, thick, heavy Gore-Tex jacket, and I carried that all the way through the Sierras. And I was quite grateful to have that in the Sierras because I got 3 days of whiteout storms. It was really intense, and then I ended up flipping. I just got, I was ahead of the pack. I think I got into the Sierras in May, maybe the end of June. We were very early. Definitely before hikers are recommended to go in. So I copped a lot of snow and weather. So I was really glad that I had the big heavy rain, like Gore-Tex rain jacket. But as soon as I got it out of the Sierras, I shipped that off and I brought in this guy. So this is really lightweight and I love this jacket, and I'm hoping to get another through hike out of it. It's kind of like a windproof, kind of waterproof. I wouldn't want to be days in torrential rain with it, but traditionally the PCT isn't a very wet trail. Out of the 177 days on trail that I only had 5 days of rain. Had probably more days of snow than I did rain. But yeah, so I loved this jacket and it's in all of my photos. I absolutely adore it. Yeah, it's pretty grubby, pretty stained, gross. And it still kind of smells like the PCT. I probably could do with a second wash. But yeah, could not talk higher enough about this, or that it's grubby sleeves, and yeah, but it served its purpose really well. And these are surprisingly warm as well. You'd start off hiking in these, but soon enough you're like sweating and gross. And I just, yeah, be bold, start cold every single morning, just get straight into your shirt and shorts, and I guarantee you, within 5 to 10 minutes, you will be warm again. So that's my piece of advice, 100%. I have my buff. I could not recommend a buff higher enough, and I love this buff so much. It became my sense of identity. Everyone kind of recognized me from this through my Instagram, or the hikers, or when everyone's looking out for that girl in the pineapple buff, or the girl with the teal buff, or it became a real distinguishing factor. And this is actually, I replaced it with the exact same one when I got home. It's not the original that I hiked on the trail with. That's at a friend's place. I left it in someone's car after a snow trip. So I'll get that back eventually, but it was pretty faded and stretched as well. It was time. It did a good stretch. So I've replaced it with the same. I absolutely love my buff. Next we will go with my beanie. So this is just a merino beanie. I actually bought it in New Zealand on a holiday over there that I was doing once. I loved it because it was really small, compact, lightweight. Sometimes you see people with really big beanies and they take up a lot of space in your pack, which is fine. I'm always sort of torn between wanting to look cute in this big puffy beanie, but if you are weight conscious, this will be like 10 to 20 grams, whereas those big ones are like 80 grams. So if they're like fleece lined inside and all that. So it's up to you what you want out of your experience, but I didn't even have that small or lightweight of a pack on the PCT, but my future through hikes, I really intend to. I've managed to strip a fair bit off. So yeah, this was warm. It did the job. On the really, really cold days, I wore my hat underneath it and then put this on over. So I had the brim, and that was mainly to still control my hood, and also to control all of the wild snowflakes that were like smacking me in the face. Having a hat with that was really useful as well. So yeah, a bit of wild weather, but in times like that, you kind of just put on everything you own. That takes me to the gloves I wore. So not everyone carries gloves. I have these ones. Again, they're merino, they're icebreakers. I love them. I bought them in Australia, but it's called the Xero glove. I never even realized the significance of that until I was out in the Sierras, and I was like, oh yeah, makes sense, Xero gloves. But yeah, these are great. A lot of people don't have hot gloves for the whole way. I feel the cold, so I did, and I loved it. When I was doing my Be Bold Start Cold in the morning, I would wear my gloves to take my tent down, and sometimes I'd even start wearing my gloves while I hiked. It's much easier to walk and take gloves off than it is to walk with a pack on and take a jacket off. So that was kind of my compromise with myself, and these got so much use. And again, these ones have now been replaced for most items, particularly in the clothing section. One through hike is its life done. They're not hardcore duty gear. Even this shirt here, there's holes in the back of it, and I actually didn't wear the shirt the whole way. I had to replace it about halfway, maybe even less, 3 months in-ish, because yeah, your pack starts to wear on it and wear through holes and things like that. I still have my manky old, what do you call these, Gaiters. They're very faded, very dirty. I'll never be able to get the PCT dirt out of it. Yes, they have been washed. Probably only keeping these for the sake of it. I have actually replaced them with some funky new other patterns, but I wore these for the first half of the trail. Annoyingly, I wasn't wearing ultras, and I'll go into shoes shortly, so I had to keep like getting my own Velcro and sticking it on, and then that would never stick down properly, so it kind of just became a bit inconvenient, and I ended up carrying them for the second half and not really wearing them. And I guess the desert is when these are the most useful, because that's when you're really walking on sort of sand, and that's when you want to stop the grit getting into the top of your shoes. Whereas as you get further in, the trail gets harder packed, you're more in snow. Actually in snow, these were good because if you post hold, which is when you sink into the snow, it stops a lot of the snow from packing into your shoes. So they actually were great for the Sierras as well. But beyond that, not really an essential item. I think I kind of just got over it. But definitely for deserts, I've replaced them, so I would go for Gaiters again. Now that we're at feet, we'll talk about socks. So I mentioned darn tufts. I have a few things to say about this. Firstly, darn tough. You can't get them in Australia, so I waited till I got to the US to splurge and buy myself a pair, and it was very exciting because of the hype. They are good socks. They did last quite well. The thing I loved about them the most is the fact that they're seamless, and I don't think that's talked about enough, but as in the world of blister prevention, every time I've got a blister here at home, it's always been on the seam line of a sock, and generally on my little toe or big toe. So I loved the darn tufts because they're seamless, and they're wool. Wool is a really good fabric or thread or whatever to make socks out of, because they're far warmer and they're a lot more durable as well. So even if they get wet, your feet still have a chance of staying warm. And particularly, again, when we talk about the Sierras, you're only wearing trail runners. It's cold. So yeah, wool socks are fantastic. I actually still continue to have issues with blisters, even with my darn tufts. And I found that the biggest issue I was having was actually, it was desert, and all the dirt and grit and sand was getting between my toes and kind of just like chafing my toes and like sandpapering my toes raw. And that's when I moved into Injinji liners. These are not liners now. So I guess to finish off what I was saying about darn tough, they do come with a lifetime warranty, and you can exchange or get them replaced to go into a camping store and say, these are my holy pair, and they give you a brand new. It's a lifetime guarantee. Look, I never did that. I really think that if a product can get you, and something like a sock can get you something like 700 miles, they're probably worth the money. Reinvest in that company for making a good product. You're never going to get one pair of socks that will get you the full way, but believe me, it's rare that you will get a pair of socks that do get as far as darn tufts do. So my word to you is support the companies that provide good quality instead of trying to rot them, because socks are $30. I think if we all want to speak that highly about darn tufts, support the company. In saying that, I did find that wearing Injinji sock liners and darn tufts, they were great, but I felt excessive. So when I found these Injinjis that were wool and slightly thicker, meaning that I didn't have to try and put on 2 pairs of socks every morning, in combined with swelling feet and going up shoe sizes, and sometimes my shoes were too small already. So yeah, these are my happy medium. I find that after my little rant, they don't actually last as long as the darn tufts do. I get holes in them far more regularly, but I'm willing and prepared to replace my socks semi-regularly on a through hike anyway, because guess what? It's gear that you're using and you're working pretty hard. So splurge, treat yourself. I actually am in the habit of having 2 pairs of socks to hike with that I always rotate, and then I have 1 pair of just regular socks to sleep in. Those can be a darn tufts if you like. I just had a novelty pair of socks. They had PCT logos on them that were sent to me, and they were my sleep socks. But yeah, and also just looking at the height of the sock as well. I've got hair in this, sorry, that's gross. But yeah, so having like a good amount of height above your shoe line, so your shoes don't rub on your heel in sand and things like that, especially because Gaiters kind of end around here. So yeah, there was a whole lot of good things that I could say about the Injinjis and the length of these, and the sports cut darn tufts as well. Finally, I mentioned I was sponsored by Salomon. I was really lucky to get that, and they also provided my shoes for the whole trail. I did wear shoes the whole way, and I've thrown them out now. They did not last. They were very well ready to be retired by the time I got home. But I wore, the shoes that I loved the most was the Salomon Sense Ride. They are a trail runner, and they are the ones with the laces that you don't have to tie. You kind of just pull the cord and like cinch it up. And they were good. I did end up with really bad plantar fasciitis. I just didn't wear insoles from the starts. I have regular to high arches and probably needed to support that a little bit better. And I think it's really important that you do. But I did find that Salomon traditionally do have quite a narrow toe box in their shoes, and that's a kind of signature trait of theirs, you could say, which isn't necessarily recommended for through hiking. So when you through hike, your shoe sizes or your feet grow. I actually went up 2 shoe sizes in total. One was probably swelling, and the other is just your feet get a bit stronger and flatten out a little and widen. And yeah, so having shoes that are a little bit narrow plus 2 pairs of socks, I had a few issues with rubbing and things. So once you nail your shoe size, definitely order up from your usual size, because you will very quickly grow into them. And I outgrew my first pair of shoes before I outwore them. I kind of was stubborn and stuck to it, which I regret. So yeah, definitely go a little bit bigger than what you normally would. These days, I have finally given in and purchased Ultras. They're not available in Australia, so I had to order them from the US, which makes it a fair bit more expensive. But I've given them a good crack and I'm pretty happy with them. I haven't had any chafing or blisters or anything like that around my toes, which I usually get. And then the second hot spot for me is generally on the ball of my foot as well. And again, I think that's just because I was kind of like squashed in there. So yeah, I love this, and I particularly love the fact that it's got like the gator trap features on it, which means that I'm actually not going to be lazy, because basically I am always lazy and hate attaching extra Velcro and hooking it onto laces and things. So I think, yeah, they've nailed it with the Ultras. And I don't know, I guess I'll tell you how they go after I've done a through hike in them, but so far so good in the short things that I've done here. So that's probably it for now. I will wrap it up there because it's probably getting a bit long, but all in all, I would probably make 1 or 2 slight changes, but nothing much. This is the end result of my kit, so I've weeded out all the extra stuff. Only other thing would be probably undies and bra. I took 3 pairs of undies so I could rotate them pretty regularly and just wash them and always have a spare. That's my personal preference, and it worked really well for me, and I would do that again. The weight of 1 pair of undies I'm willing to carry. And I just took 1 bra, and it was just a like seamless sports bra. It was fine. Again, I haven't really found any massive do's or don'ts for bras. That's such a personal thing. I've heard that a lot of people are really happy with Patagonia sports bras, but that's not the one I wear. It's just I don't know, like a no-name one that I picked up and loved and probably would wear again for my next through hike. So yeah, I hope this helped, and don't forget to support me and my channel. Please, please, please like, subscribe, hit the buttons down below, and I'm going to continue to send you heaps more videos. So yeah, thank you. Bye, bye, bye.